I see a lot of posts, especially on threads, where people make kind of broad statements about their revenue. And it always seems like a really high number. It's always like, oh, I made 200,000 this year. And there are people that comment, they'll be like, yeah, but is that revenue or profit? Like there are
Mm,
some people that will question that. But I see like most of the stuff we see online are like these prices for projects. Also, like people will be like, I paid 5,000 for a website and it was too much, and they're like complaining about the price of a website. Or someone will be like, I'm creating a proposal. Is this enough for a website? And I'll ask about the final price. And it's like we're always seeing these big numbers and these revenue numbers, these invoicing numbers, but very rarely do I see people talk about success and measuring the success of a project based on something other than that final number.
you mean like the profitability?
Yeah, so like for example, when people comment on those posts, especially if someone's asking about pricing, there will be people who will be like, that's way too much, that's way too little. And obviously they're all missing context. I mean, that's like a whole other discussion. But I feel like the thing that no one is saying is, how long is this project taking? What are your fixed costs? How many other projects like this are you expecting to have this year? And like, how are you measuring if that, like, what is your measurement for if this is enough or not? Like, it's so difficult to tell someone, a stranger online, yes, that's enough for a website if you don't know their situation. And then it's also just this weird av- aversion that people have towards talking about profit in our industry.
Yeah, that's true. I think that maybe a small percentage doesn't even really know what it is,
Yeah.
or like completely just forgets that they need to. I think they don't distinguish between income and profit, or like revenue and profit.
They
Mm,
don't distinguish between, it's not even just that, they don't distinguish between revenue, their income, as in their salary, and profit.
for sure.
It's actually three things. I think, especially when you're like one person, you tend to just have one account, which is bad, obviously. Like, definitely have two. But if you only have one account and you see this money coming in and then you take the money out to spend on yourself or whatever, it's hard to also differentiate between those things.
Yeah, exactly. But it makes it even harder because at the end of the day, when you take on a project and they pay you whatever you ask them to pay for this project, you will get that number most likely if you're a solopreneur onto your bank account. So it kind of looks like, wow, this is how much money I made on this project, but it's kind of just like a half truth. It's like, yes, how much money you made on the project, however, with a little asterisk, because it's not actually the money, all of the money that you're going to keep.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the thing that people don't ask. I never see people ask under those posts, like, how much of this money are you actually able to keep?
Yeah, but I think that, mm, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail here. I think that kind of like deserves its own episode. But I think that just many people don't really have like a financial like literacy and just really like basic ones in terms of, yeah, okay, this project needs to make profit. Like, what are my fixed costs? And I completely understand though, because I mean, just look at how we started. It's not like we sat down and had like, we had some idea of some of our fixed costs, but let's be for real. We didn't have like like an exact list where we were like, okay, no, this is a profitable project and this isn't. And to be fair, most people don't even know that what like the profit margins are in the creative business.
Did you ever feel scared, like at the beginning, to actually sit down and look at the real numbers? Like, was that a factor in was that a reason why we didn't do it? Or was it really just like we didn't think to do it?
I think it's I think it's a mix. I think we didn't think to do it in the beginning because we kind of like we started with a sprint. We didn't like start slow. I don't feel like it was a slow start. I feel like we kind of just like started and everything took us by, not by surprise, but how do you say when like something just like takes you somewhere where you didn't expect it?
Well, yeah, it was all very turbulent because
Yeah,
we suddenly
turbulent.
had a lot of
Mm.
projects at once. We didn't know how to handle it. We didn't know how to really plan properly. So there wasn't a lot of time to
Yeah.
do any planning.
And to be fair, we were not like the most organized people in terms of like the financial
The
business.
business operations, yeah.
Exactly, because we were like winging it, and I think it still it was. I mean, it turned out good for us, so it wasn't like a big issue in hindsight, but it could have also like gone sideways. But I think it was more like the lack of interest in that topic at that time, lack of time, and just like the headspace. I don't think that, or at least speaking for myself, that I had the headspace to sit down and actually take all the numbers and run through them and what we like the income and expenses. I don't know, it was just all too much. And to be fair, I wasn't even like really at that time part of the operations. It was mostly what you did.
That's true, yeah. But even I mean, I didn't really ever look at I never looked at it like, okay, I never looked at it like, okay, this is how much profit we made from this project. I definitely was looking at, okay, here we have 10,000 here, we have 5,000 here, we have 60,000 on our bank account. That looks good. Like those are I was definitely acting and like psychologically only paying attention to the revenue numbers.
Mm,
And I did see the number go down on our bank account, but then saw it go up again. So I was always kind of like chill about it. I feel like our situation was a little bit different than I think what most freelancers go through, which is that we didn't struggle to have enough money to keep the business going. I didn't feel like we were living month to month, paycheck to paycheck. And that's why I never felt like, okay, we need to sit down, look at the numbers. I feel like that really only happened to us at the point where our fixed costs went up a lot, like when we hired people. And then we did get to the point where I was starting to feel like we're living month to month. We need to sit down and look at this. And that's also when had already got into that even before that happened. And then we did see it like black on white. We need to change something because this isn't sustainable long term. Can you imagine had we still been in that phase of like vibes only, like looking at the bank account, it's fine. I don't think we would have caught that as soon as we did
yeah.
and pulled the plug on like the amount of expenses we had.
Yeah, I think that again, it's almost like a mixed answer because in the beginning I didn't exactly catch it because it was, I think at that point I was a bit scared to look at the numbers.
Okay, yeah, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, so let's move into emotions here. Until it was going well, I didn't feel like I had to analyze every cent that we are paying, and I still don't do that. I do look at the overall like financial situation, and I also what you said. I look at the bank account, and then I kind of in my head I know approximately our fixed cost, and I know how many months we have like of liquidity.
Yeah,
And whenever we go towards like our liquidity goal, as in the limit, then I kind of get like, "Ugh, what's happening?" But then it goes up again. So that's like my emotional response to the money movement on the bank account. And at that time, when things weren't going so well anymore, when we were living month by month, I kind of knew how much is coming in and I kind of knew how much is going out. But I didn't know the exact numbers and I was scared to look because I
yeah,
knew that it was negative and I knew that we were spending more than we were
bringing in.
exactly. And I knew that it's sustainable for a certain amount of time because we had liquidity. So I was like, okay, even though these months are kind of shit, knowing this industry, knowing this field, this can like turn around in a month.
Yeah, and I mean that's also what profit is for. Like it's for those times when you don't have work.
Exactly. So I feel like in
Which
that
was also
terms,
my thinking back then. I was
yeah,
like, and it still would be now. It still is now. We still have months where we don't get any revenue, but I know it's okay. We have all of this saved up, so it's fine. I mean, that's normal. Um, yeah, but I get I also was scared at that point to look at the real numbers.
yeah, because I think I knew where it was heading, and I knew I didn't want it to be true because we had different goals back then.
Yeah.
Maybe back then we had the goal of like building like a big agency or like a big studio at least with like a lot more employees. I don't know. We had like big plans in that direction. And I mean, we will talk about this in another episode that we actually didn't even feel like this plan is something for us. However, at that point, I didn't want it to be true. And I don't know, seeing the numbers would have kind of like, I would have had to confront that feeling, and I
Yeah.
wasn't ready yet. And that was really not a good decision because I feel like we could have actually saved a lot more money had we acted sooner.
Yeah.
But it's not just emotional to the money itself. It was also emotional because of the responsibility that you feel when you have employees. It's not like you can just act like, at least back then, at least for me, that would have been cold-hearted, for lack of a better term, to just like be like, okay, numbers don't add up. Okay, bye. I'm sure it happens like that in a lot of companies, but I don't know, I formed a bond with our employees. I couldn't
Yeah.
just be like, okay, tschüss, like, okay, bye. Sorry,
Yeah.
just the German came out. So I don't know, it goes beyond that, especially when you're a small team. And I think that I didn't want that to be true. There were like a lot of
But that's like the
feelings.
psychological aspect of which is what I wanted to talk about today. And that's one of like what I wanted to get into. And like pulling from our experience, like the emotional aspect was the fact that we were financing these people's lives and like we were giving them a job, we were giving them stability and an income, and then to take that away suddenly it feels like horrible, obviously. And all of that ties into this. You don't want to look at the numbers, because when you look at the numbers, you have to admit to yourself that you have to do that horrible thing that you don't want to do.
Mm.
And it doesn't change the reality. That's the thing. And it's like this, I see this so much online, people trying to change the reality, their own reality, by gaslighting themselves into thinking that the prices they are charging are okay and appropriate. Commenting on posts like, this person wanted 5,000 for a website. Like, first of all, making a post like that and saying that that's an outrageous amount. Then people commenting on it being like, I can do it for 100, like all these people who are involved in this rhetoric of creative services are too expensive. Oh, this should be cheaper. I can do this cheaper. Like they're all gaslighting their whole industry into thinking, don't look at your numbers, don't think about profit, do it as cheap as possible, take it on, and then you're forced to take on as many clients as you can because you can't meet a profit otherwise. And like it becomes this job and this freelance like work that is extremely unsustainable and not profitable.
Do you think people comment like, okay, I can do this website for $100? I'm talking more about the Western side because I know that prices are different depending where you live. But let's talk
Yeah.
about US, Europe.
Yeah.
Do you think this because people do projects for that amount of money even
Hmm.
here? So it's not like something it's still something that happens. That's my point. And do you think those people actually once sat down and really calculated or really like sat there how many hours they spent or like checked how many hours they spend on a project, or I don't know, used another metric? I mean, hours is not the only metric
No,
to
ours
use
is
there.
actually a really good one to use to check if something was successful or not. Like that's the thing, like we always demonize hourly based pricing, and hours are not about like creating an hourly rate and working by the hour, but hours can be a really good method to see, was this profitable? And if you don't want to use hours, time in general. So like if you worked 3 weeks on something, 2 months on something, timelines are really important to assess if it was profitable or not. And generally speaking, if a project took a long time, it probably was less profitable than something that was like shorter, especially if the budget is low. So unless it's like a huge budget and you have like a year for it, and that's like planned, that you have a year for it, that's different. But like let's say you planned for it to take 2 weeks, then it takes 2 months. Like at the end of the day, that wasn't worth nothing to you. And I don't think that, to answer your question, I don't think those people have sat down and thought about that, because there's no way that a website for $100 is profitable. Even like in today's age, if you created it with AI and you really didn't do much except like just add on like the emails with the client, a meeting with the client, any type of feedback round, even a feedback round is worth more than $100. So no, because if you sit down and calculated those costs, if you actually looked at how much money do I need to make to reach a salary goal? How much money do I need to make to reach a profit goal? So I have money on the side in case I can't work, don't want to work, want to buy a new laptop, want to hire someone. If you looked at all those things, it's impossible to come out of that and offer a website for $100.
I actually think that we are here kind of like scratching on another reason as to why people kind of offer their services at a pretty cheap price. Now let's put competition aside. I know that competition is big in this one, but I don't think that people are aware how much goes on behind the scenes. I think that people look at a website in an isolated way, just to take the website as an example, and think like, I can design this and it's just about the website and I can do this fast, I can do this quick, but they don't really think about everything it entails in the background. So all the project management, all the client management, I mean, everything that you mentioned. I don't think that there's the awareness, especially with people who just start out, how much work that is. I mean, there's
Yeah,
like literal jobs for that.
I
Account manager,
know.
project manager, and when you're a solopreneur, solo freelancer, this all falls on you.
Accounting,
Yeah, I mean,
bookkeeping.
let's even get started with business operations. Just the
Yeah,
project alone.
I know, but each project comes with extra work when it comes to things like accounting. You have to write the invoice, you have to write a reminder if the payment doesn't come in on time. You have to then file that in some way. Okay, this payment came in. When did it come in?
Hmm.
Like every single project you add to your workload adds admin to your workload. And I think that's also like you said, people don't see that admin. They only see the execution. They see the project deliverables. They're thinking in deliverables. They're thinking, okay, this website, how it looks in this form is worth $100. But everything that goes into that is worth a lot more than that. Obviously, it's also worth more than 100, but like, let's assume the actual output is only worth 100. Sure, but like everything that goes into that, everything you need to do to keep your business running. I mean, like, even just, keeping everything organized, your day organized, operating a business that is functional, like that deserves payment as well. I don't know why people think only the output is worth something.
I mean, they think that because they don't think of themselves as an entrepreneur
Well,
or like,
yeah, I think that's the other psychological aspect that comes into this. Like there's the emotional one, there's like you're scared to look at the numbers, maybe you feel like you would then see that you're actually failing or whatever, or that your prices need to change and you don't know how, or you don't know how much, or you're worried you'll lose clients. There's that emotional aspect. And then there's the aspect of people don't realize they're running a business.
mm, I think that's a general issue in the creative industry.
Yeah, 100%. Because people consider themselves creatives and they think they're doing all this creative work and they're creating beautiful things. But as soon as you register as a freelancer in your country and you're self-employed and you have to pay taxes and you have to pay self-employment, social security and all those things, at that point, it's not like, oh, I'm just this creative person. I'm doing this in my spare time as like a side thing. It's your business and you have to treat it like one.
Yeah. I mean, actually, um, that's a good point, like looking at it as a side business or like a side project, because when you study, at least in our class, some people were already freelancing on the side. And I think that it always starts kind of like a side hustle, more or less. And maybe you just like stay in that mindset, I guess, where it's like still a side hustle when even though it's not anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, um, generally, I have like some issues with the word side hustle. But overall, I just think that once you start something like that, you're already kind of an entrepreneur. You kind of like already run a business, whether you want it or not. You still need to look at the numbers and like even if it's just like a really small business. Actually, there was a post on Reddit that I read. It was unrelated to the creative industry. No, actually, it wasn't. It was like starting a small shop on Etsy.
Hmm.
And they wanted to sell something for, I don't even know how much, but the revenue or like the profit or the income that they wanted was like around 200 euros a month, like extremely low. And they were like asking, does it even make sense to do that? And I think that it doesn't.
No, yeah, I agree.
Exactly, because again, because it's not just a side hustle. And the issue is, even if you start something like that, you still need to think about the taxes and everything it entails to run that thing, the operations. And even though it's maybe like obviously compared to something bigger, it's marginal. um, However, you still have to think of those things, and is it really worth it for that amount of money?
Yeah, like it would not be worth it for me personally if I mean, it depends how much time this person's investing a month into their business, but
But still,
let's just take Austria as an example. When you work 10 hours a week in Austria, which amounts to around 40 hours a month, give or take, because not all months are like exactly 4 weeks long, you make about 500 euros a month. For me, that's like my limit, you know? So like if this person is only investing like let's say half of what, like 5 hours a week, and then she's getting 200 back, that's okay. Like that's fine. But like let's say she's investing 10, 20 hours a week into this thing. Maybe it's like even, her whole weekend goes away because of it. Then I feel like that isn't worth it, just
yeah,
for an extra 200 a month. That
yeah.
seems pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't write about any goals of like expanding it ever. It's more like, yeah, I just want to do this little side hustle just
Yeah.
until I find something else. And there I was like thinking, I don't know, it makes more sense to just get like a small job. And
Yeah, I think it can.
but obviously it depends on the person. I
Yeah,
was
it also
just like,
depends on like the future goals. I feel like some people call it a side hustle or they like start it small and then it turns into like their whole life and then they
yeah,
end
of
up actually
course.
making money with it. And I think that's what happens in the creative industry a lot. I think people start off, like their friend needs a logo. I mean, we just talked to Marina who started like her whole niche was
Hmm.
just a result of like a friend of a friend needing wedding design. And then suddenly she's like in this industry and she's making really good money
Hmm.
because of one project she did for like a family
Yeah, of course.
member. So it's like, yes, that can happen that like you just do something on the side and then it turns into your whole career. And then, yeah, then there are side hustles where I feel like it's not really worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was more like just like I don't know what to do, according to that post. I don't know what to do right now. I kind of want to do this on the side until I find something. Is it like even worth it? So it wasn't like in your example, for example, there was like a goal. Like I'm a designer, I want to do this, and I kind of like found that niche for me because someone came. I don't know, I just found it interesting to add on to this discussion or into this topic because yeah, I feel like there's so much going on in the background that it's almost not worth it to do it for very little money.
No, I agree. I also just think that even a side hustle still ends up being a business. The
Exactly.
only the only time it isn't is like the example you mentioned at the beginning of what you were saying was the people in our class at university who were already doing small projects. That to me is the only exception is when you're in this weird phase of you haven't registered your business yet, but you're already working. And like legally speaking, that's actually like not allowed. But you do it like with family members and people who know you. So it's like kind of in a gray zone. And then you make money off of that. You're not paying anything into taxes. You're not paying social security. You're not paying for an office. You're not really paying for equipment because you probably still have like your laptop that you've had for the last 5 years. So it's like you're not really investing anything into your business and there's also no like payments that you have to make because you're running a business. So I feel like those ones are not so bad. And there, I think it's fine to do the logo for $100 because whatever, like you're just trying to gain experience. What I have a problem with is people who are running an actual business. They have like a website, they have their logo, they have their branding, they have their Instagram, and then they're making either posts online or comments or, they're arguing with you about how much like that $100 for a logo is fine or that 10,000 for a website is too much and all this stuff. No. I think it's really unique to the creative industry. And I just recently made a post about this on Threads, which got no traction, which I'm really sad about because I think it's such an interesting example or comparison. Because my parents are doing a lot of remodeling at home. So I'm seeing a lot of like prices for those things. My parents are generally like, they're generally people who see value in those kinds of things, so they don't mind paying a lot. I think it might be different if you're someone who doesn't see value in that. But, and this is the big but, when there are things like this, like let's say you have to redo your kitchen or redo your bathroom or whatever, you don't have the money, or you get quotes and you're like, this is outrageous, this is too expensive, so you don't value it. So you have the money, but you don't value it. Those people, you know what they do? They go online, they go on YouTube, they watch DIY videos, they figure out how to do it themselves, and they do it themselves. And you see all this content on TikTok or on Instagram of people remodeling their houses, redoing their bathroom, redoing their kitchen by themselves. It's like, yeah, okay, then it also becomes their content or whatever. Maybe they make money off of it, maybe. But the actual return on that investment of time is quality of life, right? You don't even get a return on investment in terms of money. So actually, in that case, it makes sense. It doesn't really make sense to invest a lot of money in it because all you're getting out of it is quality of life. However, with creative services, you're investing to then get money out of it. So you're investing like, let's say 10,000 in a Shopify website. How much return are you expecting on that? Hopefully, I mean, if you have a Shopify store, you're selling products, you're probably going to make like hundreds of thousands in yearly revenue. So that 10,000 is not a lot in the end, at the end of the day. So why are people so quick to judge prices when it comes to the creative industry? So quick to undercharge when the value of the return on investment is so much higher than in these other industries. And I'm talking about vanity things. I'm talking about things that don't necessarily need to be done. Like, let's say the kitchen still works, it's just old. Your bathroom still works, it's just old. You redo it because you want something new, you want something fresh, you want something that looks good. And that's kind of what creative work is too. But the only difference is it actually also gives you money once you've done it. Like your brand makes more money, generates more profit if you do it well.
I think that's actually such a good point. And I think that ties back into business literacy. If you're not business literate and this is how you literate, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then cut away whatever I just said. Thank you. Then if you don't even understand your business and you're literally running your business, how would you understand someone else's business and what value you give them? I think in the beginning when we started, I was also not thinking about like, okay, how much money are they going to generate off of this work? It's once because we had like access to the analytics, so we saw like the revenue generated. And once I saw those numbers and put into comparison with how much money we got, I was kind of shocked. Obviously, I understand that we are not the only cost expense.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I get that, totally get that. However, seeing that in perspective, it kind of like changed my brain chemistry in a way because people who usually people who hire creatives, they have like a pain point, and it's usually about conversion, it's usually about brand awareness, and everything ties back into revenue. So if the branding isn't working right, they're missing out on clients. If the website isn't working right or it doesn't like tie well back into the branding, they're like losing clients or like missing their target group. In any case, it all goes back into wanting to generate more revenue. And we creatives help them. Of course, there's also a project where it's like, I don't know, your local bakery, I just need something cute. And it's not going to be like life-changing if the logo looks like this or that. But I would say in most cases, we are there to generate more revenue.
Yeah. So why is the psychology of it the way it is? Like, why when people come to us and they want services and we tell them the price, and they tell us that's too expensive, they go somewhere else. On the other side, you have a client who is looking out for their business because if they think it's too expensive, like, that's fine. Like, maybe they really can't afford it. But why are we so quick to be like, oh, I'll do it for cheaper? Like, why are we not looking out for our businesses and like what we need to generate in terms of profit? And like, why is it on the one end, the client is so, has a clear idea of what's too expensive, what isn't too expensive, and we allow them to like control what we make in the end at the end of the day, when it should be they're doing their business, we're doing our business. That can sometimes work together and it sometimes doesn't work together. I don't know, I just don't understand like the psychology behind that.
You mean the psychology of why then people start underbidding themselves?
Yeah, they start underbidding or they don't even price high to begin with so that they get those clients who are like 5,000 for a website is outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has many reasons, and one amongst them is that creative services are still seen as something everyone can do. My cousin can, I mean, you know how they used to say, oh, my cousin can do that in Photoshop. Like, I feel like this sentiment still carries on, especially with tools now that make it even easier to execute. I feel like people then just like devalue this whole field even more. And I think that we're kind of doing it to ourselves. First of all, with the underbidding, like underbidding each other by like a crazy amount. And I think
Yeah.
that the big players, I will call them like that, who understand the business side of it and how much they need to make, they understand their fixed costs, and they know, okay, I cannot go lower than this. I think that they kind of like are not really part of this because they wouldn't go and comment, oh, I will do it for 1,000. I think it's the people who don't value their own work, and which is like kind of sad because they don't
Yeah.
value the field that they're in. It's like, I don't know, creating a brand, I don't know, a clothing brand, and don't value the materials, don't value anything around it. I don't even know what other business I could think of that is similar to this.
Yeah, but
Like, what other field?
yeah, I feel like there aren't really other fields that are similar to it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we talked about it before in another episode, like this grab mentality, trying to like, kind of like, oh, we're all doing bad here, so you should also do bad. Why do you ask for 5K for this website? It's not even worth 5K. And on top of that, it's ugly. Like,
Yeah.
remember, remember when we
Yeah.
posted kind of like our price breakdown, or not breakdown, our pricing process, and
Yeah.
people went on our websites just to tear us down.
I know.
And it's like, why?
Yeah, it's weird. It's very, there are a lot of people in the community that are super supportive and they support each other and they're like really great.
Of course. Yeah.
And then there are a lot that are not. And I wonder, like, maybe it's just because we're so chronically online and we just see it so much. Like in general, us as as an industry are chronically online. Like, because I don't know, do electricians go on threads and make posts about electricity stuff?
I mean,
I
maybe
don't
there are
think
some thought
so.
leaders in
I feel
the.
like maybe architects are maybe similar, but architects have like this ego and this like there's also this weird acceptance of how expensive architects are. Like, I'm not saying they shouldn't be. Like, I understand they should be. I'm totally fine with them being expensive too. Like, but there seems to be some kind of like different thing going on in that industry. But like, I don't know, like construction, I don't think people who are in construction are on
Hmm.
threads talking about prices.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
But
I
I
never thought
honestly,
about that.
I honestly can't imagine, like, because I've talked to so many different companies now to do with like window renovation, floors, bathrooms, all this stuff. I don't think any of them are going around judging each other's prices. Like, I just cannot imagine that. And they all have very similar rates. There was never like the differences were like, and I'm talking about these are big budgets, like 50 to 60,000. The differences between them were like 5 to 10,000,
Yeah, that's
which isn't a
interesting.
lot like in that. But for us, it's like you have people and let's ignore the agencies who are doing like things for 1 million or hundreds of thousands. Like, let's talk about small freelancers. There are freelancers doing websites for like 4,000, and then there are freelancers doing them for I don't know. There's probably ones doing them for $50.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a huge difference between those two prices. And
Yeah.
I don't think you get that in any other industry.
No, unless you're like what are they called? Fliesenleger? A one person freelancer. Like sometimes people just come and you can pay them like, I mean, not Schwarzarbeit, but some people are not like a company. I
Yeah.
think that there are people who are like more freelancers.
But even then, like for example, I actually have a good example of that because I have the guy that comes to service my gas tama. I don't know what the English word is for that.
Boiler?
Yeah, my gas boiler. Yeah, I think that's the right word. Um, I mean, he has like his wife who does like the secretarial stuff. Like she answers the phone and does the appointments, but that's it. There's nobody else that works for him. He comes like with his stuff, does it himself. Sometimes he's the one that answers the phone. Like he doesn't have a whole team. His prices are like depending on whether you want an invoice or not. It's between like 80 euros and 120.
Okay, so standard, kind of.
That's a pretty standard rate.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of standard rates, I think that's a very good, point you brought up, or a kind of. I think that our industry lacks standardization.
Yeah.
We are so fragmented. Like, I don't think any other industry is as fragmented as the design industry. And therefore, like, having a standard is extremely difficult. Like, I think that's also why prices like 50 euros for a logo exist and 1 million for a logo exist. The question is, how will you standardize it? Of course, we are working on a little something.
Wow, that was a sneaky way of putting a little bit of an advertisement there.
No, but I think a big overarching issue in our industry is standardization.
No, I think you're right.
And I think that's why you get like similar quotes in remodeling things, because there aren't like, I don't know, 100 companies that can do it in that.
Yeah, especially in the area. Like you usually
Exactly,
look
yeah.
for something local.
And usually when you look for a designer, unless, I mean, I'm not quite sure, but I think often when you're like smaller, you start local, or you start in your network. I don't know. I think I could imagine a big point is a lack of standardization, lack of transparency when it comes to pricing, pricing the work. So, and lack of understanding of how much money I need to make to have a sustainable living, because then I would very, very quickly realize that 50 euros for a logo is not sustainable.
Yeah. Do you think that the lack of standardization affects the psychology of it?
Yes, I do think so, because if there was a standard, let's say, I'm just gonna put something in the room just for this example's sake. Every website costs 1,000, whatever. Or a website costs around 1,000. Let's put it that way. So, the standard is 1,000. So I can go a little bit lower, a little bit higher. But if every website costs around 1,000, then no one's going to pay 10,000, but everyone would be sus if you suddenly like sell it for 10 euros. I mean, we see it in phones. We see it in a lot of other industries. Like the prices are kind of like standardized.
Yeah. And still there's a lot of competition and a lot of positioning happening, Like that's the thing. I don't know. There's the creative industry is huge and the market is huge and there's so many people doing this work. But I don't think that matters because there's enough work for everybody. There's enough people who need websites. Like if we all just offered the same price or like around like a standard rate, it's not like that work would just suddenly disappear.
I don't think so either. However, I do believe that since the creative industry is so devalued that people don't even think that someone would pay 10K for a website. They think it's impossible. When they hear these numbers, they think you're lying.
Yeah.
And I think that in their head is like, it's not like it didn't like click in a way where like, wow, they make 10K. I want to make 10K. How can I make 10K on a website? They go like, no, impossible. I will make it for 1K.
But why? Like, where's that coming from? What's that? I know we're not psychologists or whatever, but I just like, why are people so quick to say no?
Yeah. Good.
It's so weird, right?
Because I mean, as if I'm like know the answer. I think because you have an identity and things are tied to your identity. And I think if you don't believe that and it's not part of your identity, you kind of generates a conflict in you and you get uncomfortable. And obviously, you usually return to your identity and what you think is right and don't like to be challenged. I mean, I also don't like to be challenged in a lot of different topics. And whenever something comes up where I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't believe this," then I have to challenge my own beliefs and my own identity in a way,
Mm,
no?
yeah.
And I could be open. I could be like, oh, maybe they have a point. Or I could be like, no.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I had never thought of it that way. But identity definitely does play a role in a lot of what goes on in our industry because people are very attached to what they do and they're
Ex-
very attached to like what they produce. And that's probably because like it's something creative and there's an emotional aspect to that.
yeah. I mean,
Different to like construction work where people are like, I don't know, it's like materials and it's a lot of like planning and it's just more about like it's also very I feel like it's all very standardized.
yeah.
They use the same things for everything. It's the same work every time.
Yeah.
And
And
creativity is a bit different.
I agree. Also, I don't think that there is any other field that is as idealistic as the creative industry.
Yeah, that's also true.
So I think that there's so much context and so much lore in this industry that I think a standardization, as easy as I put it, like website should cost around this, is just simply impossible. Um,
I also don't think it needs to happen in a way like now every website should cost 1,000 because I we obviously believe in value-based pricing. So like if the client is, you know, a multi-million dollar corporation, they shouldn't be paying 1,000. But some kind of standardization, like a baseline price, and from that baseline, you then go up. Like obviously you don't go down, but you go up. Like that's like actually what we're building with Factor. And that's something I do believe in. I do think there should be like this minimum rate that everybody charges. And I really mean everybody. Like, and if you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing, like still there should be a baseline price for people like that because at the end of the day you're still putting a lot of work into it and effort.
yeah.
And yeah, the identity thing probably does go play like just to come back to that because I think it's interesting. Probably has a lot to do with the imposter syndrome. I think a lot of
Mm.
people, like you said, like you challenge them by saying you should be charging 10,000 for this, and to them that's like outrageous. But it's then again, it's like why is it outrageous? A lot of people could charge that amount, but they
Mm.
don't.
I see where you're going with this.
So it's like, why don't they feel like they're worth that amount? And then it's kind of like, I don't know, there's a lot of uh, like therapy that we need to do within our industry. That people stop feeling like they're not worth that amount or their work isn't worth that amount.
Yeah, I think that puts it like really well and ties it like back into the imposter syndrome with it, which a lot of designers have. I mean, myself included. That's why I'm not working as a designer anymore, amongst other reasons. But one big reason was imposter syndrome. I never felt it's good enough what I do. And therefore, I don't think I would have been able to charge higher prices because I wouldn't have felt worthy. But I wouldn't go and shout it from the rooftops. Like that's the I guess that's the
It's
difference.
funny, these people have a lot of confidence when it comes to challenging your rates, but they don't have a lot of confidence when it comes to pricing their own work.
But I think that they are confident in their pricing. Otherwise, I mean, I assume that because otherwise, why would you say that? I think, okay, no, wait, let me rephrase this. I think that they are confident in their belief that that's the right
Yeah.
pricing. So they think since they charge this amount, everything else that's higher is outrageous because it's, yeah, again, tied to their identity. And yeah, so I think they really believe that that's the right way.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a human, it's a very human thing. Like we see it in other areas of life that
Yeah, of
people don't
course.
like to challenge, don't like to be challenged. They don't like to admit that they're wrong. They don't allow like to admit that they could be wrong, and then that would open them up to explore other options.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting to me that our industry is so plagued by all of this.
Do you think any other it would be similar?
I really don't. Like,
Mm.
I really can't imagine it. But if somebody was listening from the construction industry or so
Or
they
any
know
other
somebody
industry?
in the medical industry, or I don't know, like some other industry, like what else is
Okay,
there?
so do you think, for example, if you heard that, if you're a doctor and you heard that the specialization XYZ, I don't know, you can earn, I don't know, 100K more than in your specialization, would you say outrageous? Do you think they think outrageous, or do you think they think, wow, okay, I'm gonna specialize in that?
I think I can imagine that some people maybe do feel that way. Like maybe I know that like anesthesiologists make like a lot. I don't know if that's like I think that's just some at least in Austria. I don't know where it is in what it's like in other countries. But like I don't know, maybe that or a good maybe a good example is like plastic surgery. I mean, plastic surgery is amazing for things other than aesthetics. Like it's a very valid thing to be doing. But there are plastic surgeons who really just do beauty treatments. And I think that I can imagine that some doctors feel kind of like slighted a little, like when they make more money than if you're saving people's lives, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But within the saving people's lives realm, do you think that
No, I
if a
can't imagine that like someone who does bowel surgery gets mad at the brain surgeon for making more money.
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they do.
maybe they do. I would be really interested if it's like, I can imagine that there is some kind of like, wow, what if
But I
they make
also
so much
feel
more
like the
money?
difference is probably not that much.
Yeah,
It's probably
exactly.
like a few thousand, maybe five,
Yeah.
but it's not like with us with like $50 versus 100,000, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think that there is any other industry where the discrepancy is that high.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I feel like that's probably why there aren't these discussions in other industries as well.
Yeah.
Because like there's probably like some internal politics and internal like I don't know, resentment. But I don't think it's this thing that really drags the industry down and devalues it. Because it's not devaluing, the medical industry is not devalued.
Yeah.
Like people might think plastic surgery is ridiculous, but they accept that a nose job costs 10,000, you know?
Yeah. I'm thinking, do you think it's because there's a lot of competition in our field that could be maybe like a internal driver to just undervalue and undercharge?
Yeah, probably. But I also feel like that happens more in our industry than in others. I like to take the supermarkets as an example, especially in Austria. We have so many supermarkets. Like, and I know that they're all like from the same brands and stuff, but like you literally have one supermarket and then you have like 100 meters and you have a different supermarket. The prices are basically the same. It's not like they're trying to compete with each other. They just say like, and this is an issue right now in Austria that the supermarkets are ridiculously expensive. You would think they would see like the budget supermarkets and be like, oh, we should maybe put our price down because they have the same product for like €1 cheaper. No, they're just like, we're going to put the price up. Like, fuck you guys. We want to make more profit. So it's like, I don't know, even in industries where you feel like it would happen, it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't think, yeah, I think it probably is an issue. And I also think the chronically online aspect of our industry is also why.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we are exposed to so many things. We're exposed to Fiverr, freelancer.com, now AI. We're exposed to all these people, like all this noise about how much our work is worth, and that it causes a lot of uncertainty and yeah, just like imposter syndrome because you're also exposed to so many people doing the same thing you're doing and you think they're doing it better and then like all this stuff
Mm.
ties in back to you feeling not confident to charge more.
Actually, I just thought of the reason why we are all chronically online. It's because we have to have like some kind of presence, and our portfolio is usually online. We usually work alone, so we kind of like naturally look more for community, I can
Yeah.
imagine. But I think the bigger aspect is like looking for peers slash other people's work and inspiration, and having an online presence yourself because you kind of have to have one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely doesn't help. And I think that our work is not it's not possible to do our work without being online.
No.
So, yeah, we're kind of fucked.
I think our industry is like, in general, a pretty difficult industry to be in, just by everything you just mentioned. AI before that, like just the whole devaluation, which was already happening. On top of it, AI. I think this is just a really difficult industry to thrive in and to make money in.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of competition. You have a lot of people undercharging. So a lot of clients who don't value design either go to those people. And you just see them, oh, wow, they have so many clients. And you kind of like try to, I don't know, there's just so much going on in this industry and so much noise in this industry, lack of standardization. I don't know. I feel like this industry is really difficult to navigate.
Yeah. I think the only thing we can really do is create content that's helpful. Like, not content like, rage bait and stuff that we see a lot online, but more like deeper content, like blogs. Like when I was looking at things like how to price and stuff, for me, like blogs were really helpful.
Hmm.
I feel like if you already feel insecure about your pricing, don't go on Threads. I feel like Threads is so horrible.
Also, contact other creatives.
Yeah, and like that's the other thing, like actually talk to people in real life. Like it can be online, but like real people, like for a longer time, not just like some short interaction on.
Yeah, maybe someone you look up to. People are so helpful in this community. I know that we are like, there's a lot of negative noise going on, sure. But I think genuinely, I do believe that most people in this industry are trying to be helpful and would love to see you thrive.
And I also think that tools like what we're building with Factor, but not to just like say that's going to be the tool that will help you, but even just asking ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like ask ChatGPT if ChatGPT thinks $50 is sustainable for a logo. There's no way ChatGPT is going to say yes.
Unless you kind of trained it that
Unless you
way.
just trained it to say like to only tell you the truth. But if you ask it, like, tell me the truth, like, be honest, like, based on like numbers you find online, based on data, is this enough? There's no way that an AI would tell you that that's enough. And I know people like to hate on AI, but I feel like it's a good tool to, not to like, not necessarily to like, not like confirmation bias, but if you want to validate something, I think it's good. And validate it in a way like use data, use what you can find, not like tell me what I want to hear, because obviously you could tell the AI to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's helpful for that. But that's kind of like what we're trying to build with Factor is something to validate you. So like if you already feel like that should be the price and then you see it like from a tool and you're like, okay, yeah, it really is enough. So this person on Threads telling me I was too expensive, like they're not right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would rather get validation from the tool than from someone random on Threads.
Yeah, because it's important to remember that like these blogs that people spend a lot of time creating, or like tools or things online where you can tell people put a lot into it and it's more than just like one person behind on their keyboard at home writing a comment. Like people put a lot of thought into these things. Those are the kinds of people you want to trust. Like there are a lot of good YouTube videos as well, like from creators that talk about pricing and how to price. Like obviously Chris Do is like a good resource for that. And these people have been like in the field for a long time. They've been thinking about these things for a long time. It's not like a quick comment. So I think like long form content is really helpful to like figure out, these things like imposter syndrome, gaining confidence, like the knowledge behind raising your rates to a 5,000 euro website, for example.
Yeah. Just to go like back into the opening statement or topic, where we were talking about the emotions of just looking at the real numbers. Um, let's say I am someone who's scared of seeing her numbers. How would you suggest I could get started?
Well, I think the best thing to do always is to start with how much do you want to be making a month and really think about something that feels good. Like not like, oh, you're scraping by, but like You can pay your rent, you can afford your food, you have enough to save some a month so you can go on holiday someday. And then once you've done that and you have like a salary in mind, then look at how much your fixed costs are for your business. So like, I don't know. Most people don't have a lot because if you're working from home, but let's say you do rent a co-working space or an office, or you have your software, Adobe, whatever. Then you put all of that together, including your salary, and then you multiply that by 12. So you have your yearly costs. And then you know this is how much I need to make to break even. But that's not where it ends. Like, then you have to think about profit. So once you have that number, you just add like, I don't know, 10 to 30%. Like, add more if you want to have more, like be able to build a buffer faster. Add less if you feel like, oh, I can't charge that much. Fine, then do 10%, whatever. But then you have like your yearly costs, and then you have like this amount, and it's going to seem like a lot. It's going to be like, oh my God, there's no way I can make this in a year. But it's really important to have that number, because when you have that number, you can then think about how much can I kind of charge for a project? And then divide that number by that amount and see if that number, like let's say it comes out to like 12, that's 12 projects a year. That's one project a month. That's doable. That's realistic. And 12 clients, that's also realistic in a year. And then you start feeling like, okay, I can do this. This is realistic. And you also know when a client comes to you and their budget is way below that amount that you've set for like a per project price, you don't take that on unless, and this is the big thing, you do have to be flexible. Like there are times, like let's say you haven't had a project in weeks or like even any leads. Okay, then take it on and it's fine. You have the time. But let's say you have 3 projects ongoing, then one of these clients comes to you, then you wouldn't say yes, because why? You already have other projects going on. It's just, you're just going to be overworked, underpaid. It makes no sense. And I think that's like the place to start, is looking at your actual numbers and translating that into time that you would be spending on projects. How many projects is that? How many clients are that? And then like working towards actually getting those projects. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this discussion on the psychology behind pricing insecurity, you might want to check out our episode with Vanessa Alt, who works closely with creative businesses to gain clarity and confidence in their financials. And if you want to know more about what we're doing at Factor, check out our blog and sign up to our newsletter for updates.